So the Miami Dolphins made it to the playoffs last year and the year before. Tua Tagovailoa is the starting quarterback. He's working hard again to get to whatever level, whatever maximum level of performance and capacity he might have. One of the questions for the Dolphins, what are they thinking about the quarterback position now that the draft is approaching? And Chris, here is General Manager Chris Grier from yesterday meeting with reporters on the possibility of taking a quarterback this year. And also, Grier had some things to say about all the work that Tua is putting in to try to get to the proverbial or literal next level. Here's Chris Grier.
We always look at every position. I would say that's not someone I'm looking at the first round. It's not a position that we've even talked about. There's some good players. But, we're very happy with Tua and where he is with us. So, but at some point, I wouldn't say we're not going to draft a quarterback at any point. I mean, we took Skyler here, in the 7th round years ago. So you always look at opportunities for where you can add depth in your roster. And so I just think that goes across the board for any position. To his credit, he's trying to do everything he can to do what he can to be great, and that's been from day one when Mike and him connected here and working through this first season, and then making the changes off season, working through last year, staying healthy, leading the league in passing, and now this is his next evolution. As Mike has told you guys, we feel like there is a whole nother step that he can take, and so we're excited about it.
The comments about Tua's efforts this offseason came up as questions about his decision to work with a private quarterbacks coach. I think he's working with John Beck, to his decision to lose some weight last year. He tried to gain some weight this year. He's trying to lose some weight. And when I read between the lines of the actual transcript of the questions and the answers, I got the impression that the Dolphins never told him, you need to do this. He kind of figured out what he needed to do, and maybe there was some subtle guidance from things that were said, but it wasn't like they gave him a homework assignment, you need to do X, Y, and Z, but he went and did it. And I think they're praising him for kind of, hey, he figured it out. He passed the test. He was able to glean from the things that we were saying about where he needs to improve, and he went out and did those things without us having to tell him. And I think that's what any organization is looking for.
That's right.
Do you want key employees where you have to constantly tell them this is what you have to do? Part of the evolution is, all right, we're getting there now. He's figuring out what he needs to do without needing a written assignment of what he needs to do this offseason.
Yeah, it's a big change. It is encouraging, right? We know he had a really good year. There's no doubt about that. We've seen the evolution, right? I mean, he told us himself his first 2 years he didn't really prepare much, right? And Mike McDaniel got there. That upped it another level. He started to realize, wait, this is what I need to do. Certainly, that's a good thing. He was definitely too heavy towards the end of the year. You could see that, right? I know that was talk around the NFL, right? His thighs were rubbing together. That's not a good thing for NFL football players unless you're like a guard or a tackle. So he was smart enough to realize that, wait, I need my movement. I need to be able to hop around the pocket. That's what makes Tua really good. It's one of his strengths, right? So that's a great thing too. And then I'm sure, yeah, he's working with a quarterback coach because, hey, we saw all the lobs and softballs up in Kansas City in the cold weather. That's the question about him, right? Back to what we talked about, I think it was on Monday with Joe Burrow, who realized, wait, I need to be able to throw the ball harder in the AFC North. I realized that after year one. Tua is definitely in that mold. Nobody believes Tua is going to be able to make big throws in bad weather late in the year. And that's where he has to improve his arm strength, right? So things are on the up and up. The Dolphins should be happy, right? The big thing is with this contract, what are they going to do? That's what it is. Yeah, he led the league in passing. He did a lot of good. But as we know, when it came to the good defenses, they feasted on the poor in the week last year. We know that. When they played good defenses that think outside the box, it didn't look like best in the NFL type of passing offense or quarterback play. And that's where this contract's going to be very interesting to see what they're willing to give and pay Tua, when it comes to that point here at some point.
Two things. First,
yeah,
the idea about would you take a quarterback? Look, he's not going to take any cards off the table because why not let someone think that maybe if Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix or whoever end up slipping and sliding, and they're there when the Dolphins are getting ready to pick. Why not have the teams drafting behind you think you might take a quarterback there? It's less chance you get jumped and they take the guy you really want. So I don't put a lot of stock in that. I would be stunned. You know, he mentions, oh, yeah, we drafted Skylar Thompson. It was a 7th-round pick in 2022. It was a, hey, look, this guy's the highest-rated player. It's kind of like the reason why the 49ers drafted Brock Purdy. They weren't going to take him.
No.
Until it's like, well, he's the highest-rated player. Let's take him. But they're not going to take a guy higher than that.
The first year we're going into, we're not hurting Tua's feelings, and it's all about that. The 5th-year option, we're not trying to replace you with somebody. Right? I don't think they're trying to cause those problems, to your point. I totally agree with you there. Totally agree. They're trying. They have finally set it up where, to what you're saying, hey, we got something here. Let's see where it goes. Now, my big thing or my concern is that, hey, Chris Grier, right? He's tied to Tua. There's a lot of pressure with him in the Tua situation. It didn't work out with Brian Flores. Everybody knows Justin Herbert's better than Tua in the NFL. We know Joe Burrow's in another stratosphere. Oh, no, Jordan Love's starting to look like you might want him over a Tua long term, right? And where I worry about the Dolphins is Chris Grier going to tie himself to such a point with Tua and prove that, oh, he is good and he's the guy, that he's going to hurt the rest of the football team kind of to save his own ass a little bit about the Tua pick. That's what I would worry about. What are they going to pay him? What are you going to pay him? Just like I would say we talked about the Cowboys, or what I would say with the Giants last year. Who are you negotiating against, right? What's the number? Right? Don't just throw a number out there because you think you need to throw that number out there, right? They could throw, like last year with Daniel Jones. Why $40 million a year? Why? You could have gave him 34, and I think that you could have gone, tell me some other team that would give you 34 or 32. Show us that team. Oh, crickets? That's right. And I think like you could do the same thing with Tua. But these teams negotiate against themselves right now with certain situations and go, here's this. No, we'll give you more. We'll give you more. And it makes no sense. And I feel like the Dolphins are going to do that with Tua.
There are some similarities between what the Dolphins are facing with Tua and what the Vikings are facing with Justin Jefferson. I wrote something yesterday about my take that they should either pay him or trade him to a team that will. And I saw that. Had some conversations in the aftermath of posting that story, which caused me to wonder who's calling the shots in Minnesota as to how much money is going to be invested in Justin Jefferson. And I say that because think about Miami. Think about this. You've got absentee landlord in Stephen Ross, who is still, even though he doesn't live and work there, the guy who ultimately is going to give the thumbs up or the thumbs down to whatever they pay him. Then you've got Chris Grier, who, like you said, kind of joined at the hip with Tua, drafted him, very invested in Tua being the best quarterback he can be and keeping him around. Then you got Mike McDaniel, who, I don't know, does he think, okay, if we have somebody else, I'll still make my offense work. Maybe we could get this guy. Maybe we could get that. I don't know what he's thinking because he's never going to say it out loud because it's that very positive vibe where he knows I got to be all in. There's that word again. With the guys I have, I can't be thinking about or I can't be talking about guys I might have in the future. But who's really deciding at the end of the day? What is the number we are allocating? What is the take it or leave it? This is the limit of what we will pay. And if it means you become a free agent and you see what else is out there and maybe someone offers you something more than we'll pay, you take it and we wish you well. Who is setting that number? But that's the key. Has he earned a second contract? It's easy to say from a very binary standpoint, yes, no, yes, he has. But he hasn't earned a contract that falls between Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow.
No.
Even though he was drafted between them.
Right.
So that's the key.
That is
what
the key.
Does he want?
Yes.
And that's where agents come into it. It's the same firm that represented Daniel Jones and made that $45 million moonshot that became ultimately 40. Remember how shocked everyone was?
Yeah.
We reported he's looking for 45. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, you're making shit up again. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wait, he ended up with 40. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe he did ask for 45. He did. What do you think Tua's asking for? I don't know. That's another one where, just like with the Cowboys,
the CeeDee Lamb.
Really aren't hearing us.
Right.
Like they're keeping it all very, very tight and very, very close to the vest. And that's smart because the agents understand. If we would hear the number that they've asked for, we would be like, Tua's crazy. And I think the Dolphins don't need that getting out there because that hurts him and hurts them.
Right.
If everybody knows what he's asking for. But he's probably asking for a number that will cause most people to say, oh, my God, who does he think he is? Well, he thinks he's a guy who's trying to negotiate the best possible contract. Don't hate him because that's what his agents asked for.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not mad at him for that. I'm just saying that if I'm the Dolphins, that I'm not paying him more than anybody on this list that we're currently showing right there. There's no way. It's not happening, right? And I think that's where teams continue to get themselves in trouble there. That's a pretty special class there of guys and players, right? And maybe a few guys that are getting paid more than they should, but the circumstances lined up the right way for them to where they can maximize that. I get that. But, yeah, that's where, you hear me say it. I think you agree with me. This is where the league changed over the last 15 or 20 years, where we just pay the next guy up, top of the market money, and I don't get that. And it's where I laugh with some people in the NFL because it's like, yeah, this team's negotiating against themselves. No one else is going to pay that guy. No one was going to pay Daniel Jones $40 million. Nobody. I don't know why the Giants did it. I don't know why. I'm a defender of Daniel Jones. I like him. I think he should be the quarterback of the Giants. That doesn't mean that they should have just gave him $40 million. I mean, again, I think if they offered him 30, all right, you'd been like, well, tell me somebody out there that's going to give you 30 a year. Show me. Who's it going to be? Right? But I know there's this like the agents are realizing teams are doing this right now, and somehow they're convincing the teams that it doesn't look right unless the quarterback is making top of the tier market money, and the teams are falling for it right now.
No, it's the whole quarterback has to have a nice car thing. Phillip Rivers, when he was getting $25 million, in the same year Drew Brees was getting $25 million and Tom Brady was getting $25 million, Phillip Rivers should have worn a ski mask the entire season everywhere he went to get $25 million the same year. All due respect to Phillip Rivers, he was not in the same class as Drew Brees and Tom Brady in 2020. He just wasn't. We saw how he played that year. But he got $25 million because the bookie can't be driving around in a crappy car. Nobody's going to take him seriously. There's something that the money represents.
Right. I get
to
that.
The locker room.
I'm with you there.
Right.
You've always made that point, and you're right about it. But I feel like we've gone too far, right? $30 million is still like, you're the man. You're the man. Nobody in here is making more than you. Why do we got to go away? Wait, you're 3 times better than everybody in here. That's where I don't get what teams do to themselves a little bit. And, yeah, we got a few teams in the NFL that have fallen victim to that.
The Vikings drew the line in the cement, as you would say. They did it with Kirk Cousins. They dared him to go find something better, and he did. Now, I think at some level that was their way of letting him be the one to walk away so they didn't have to be the ones to do it. I think the more I reflect on it and think about how it was handled, I think they got exactly what they wanted to move on from Kirk Cousins when they did. But still, that willingness, and we've been talking about this for years, when is there going to be a team that says, hey, we drafted you, you've played great, we'd like to keep you, but we're not going to make you the highest paid player. We're not going to give you a market value contract.
Right.
We're just not going to do it. We'd love for you to stay, but that doesn't mean you're going to be the highest paid player in NFL history until the next guy who comes along and does the same thing. And I remember advocating that the Rams do that at one point, and they didn't. And then 2 years later, they had to undo what they did. And, there have been other examples of it where, like with Daniel Jones, well, who are you bidding against, and why are you doing this? And teams need to have some courage in their convictions and say, go ahead, we'll find somebody else. If you leave, we'll find somebody else. And now look at where the Giants are a year after giving him that money. There's a thought out there, and you and I don't really know how to interpret it. There's a thought out there. They're gonna draft somebody and go one more year with Daniel Jones, and at some point throw him overboard during the season and either put Drew Lock or the rookie out there. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's where we are. It's a cautionary tale. And so Tua is the next example. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.